And welcome back to the Comic Book ER Show, the show where I take characters from comics and hold the fuck on. Hold the fuck on. What, are you fucking sleeping right now? Are you completely passed out? Well, but get your fucking shit together. It's time for the goddamn. Oh my god. The fucking people I work with. Seriously, give me a fucking migraine. Anyways, welcome back to the Comic Book Emergency Room Show, a show where we take characters from comic books and adapt them into live action so they're in-universe raceable and they respect the comics of origin, of course, while all being pleasing to the eye. Any characters, articles, songs, creations are all made by their respective companies, and I do not own any of them. We're just having fun. Today's character is a missed opportunity in live action, but nonetheless, we will find that missed opportunity and transfer it into what it should have been. Today's victim, Ulysses Klaw from Marvel Comics. Alright, so you know how it is. We're going to find this film origin, his comic origin, we'll compare him, then we'll have a moment of silence for the fuckery that he's been through, and then we'll find middle ground between them, draw a couple variants, and the final outfit, action scenes, then we'll color everything. You basically know how it is at this point. This character, Ulysses Klaw, he was used in only 2 movies, and they just completely missed the opportunity to bring his character to complete character fruition. And I hate it when moments happen like that, and they just completely drive me insane. Today is a regular episode. We're not going to have our first of alternate type episodes until episode 13, which will be a tweaker episode. It'll be a first, and then, once we get into the different type of episodes, once we started doing the show for a while, you'll understand and get used to it, because we got all kinds of them. We got the tweaker, ahead of time, honest attempt, undidifying, of course, and then the comic reboot. Okay, I see. He's ready. All right, I'll quit yapping. It's time. Let's go. So when it comes to Ulysses Klaw's movie appearance, film, origin, there's not much to fucking talk about. He was in Age of Ultron and he was in Black Panther. So in Age of Ultron, it was referenced that he is like he's a mercenary that goes to these like black market places, and he buys like vibranium. His whole thing is he just steals vibranium. He doesn't kill T'Chaka in this universe, and he's just kind of like a terrorist for Wakanda. He gives Ultron the vibranium he needs, and then gets his arm cut off. And then you don't see him until the next movie in Black Panther. He's like always trying to sneak into Wakanda and blowing up shit. And he comes in, steals vibranium with his little group. Great moment. And then he leaves as a group. And then the next time they see him, he's selling it to an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Ross. And Black Panther comes out, chases him in the car scene, and then he steals it back from him. And they interrogate him. His people come and pick him up, and he dies. And that's his entire film origin. Nothing else happens beyond that. Everything is just, his character is basically like a thug in a regular action movie. He doesn't really have any pressing point to the plot. Nothing really, and he's just wearing like stuff to disguise himself. But in the scene, I guess you could consider the big fight is the one where he's like just wearing normal clothes. All right, and so we'll go to the comic book origin because it's much more interesting. In the comics, Ulysses Klaw's father was in the German Nazi army, and in World War II. And Fritz, his father was basically the one who accidentally discovered Wakanda. Like, he was the one that basically told them that, oh, they have vibranium. He learned about vibranium, tried to kill people to obtain it. Ulysses Klaw comes around. He's a physicist. He works in, science and shit. He tries to create a sound converter, but in order to make it, he needs vibranium. So he goes he brings these mercs to obtain it, and this big war happens, and he kills T'Chaka, and Black Panther gets his arm, and he leaves, and he gets this like arm cannon that you see, and with the arm cannon, he comes back to try. He can create like animal constructs with this arm cannon, and all kinds of stuff, kind of like Green Lantern, and he just kind of his costume at that point he just wears like normal like a red jacket maybe, and he has this like kind of handgun, but there's two versions. And so in the original version, he gets attacked by Black Panther, gets trapped on the ground, and uses his sound converter that he's trapped on the ground with to turn himself completely into sound, which he goes on to become a part of the Masters of Evil. He defeated the Avengers once, apparently. He's part of a team called the Frightful Four also, and he's enemies of the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, Black Panther, and a character called Kazar from a series called Savage Land. Don't know what that is. He also has a retconned origin. It's basically similar, but the only difference is that in the original version he gets his arm like attacked and it like his arm goes dead, like numb. But in the retconned version, he gets his arm completely blasted off by T'Challa when his father dies, and that's the huge thing. That T'Challa hates Klaw because he killed his father, but in the movie sense, there's really no reason for him to hate him other than just being a terrorist. But yeah, when he gets his arm cut off, his sponsors, as they call him, because he's a mercenary in this version, keep him, and they build this sonic arm for him, and he goes back, tries to kill T'Challa, and that's basically. I've noticed when he turns into sound, he's like made of like pink and purple kind of, and as you've seen there in the picture in the comics, he has like this. He almost looks like he has like a full body suit from head to toe when he turns into sound. So, and then when he's in the movie, he just wears like really fancy clothing, and he doesn't really have much of a look that resembles anything to the comics. He's just wearing normal clothes. And then but in the comics, before he becomes made of sound, he does wear something that kind of symbolizes that he's going to turn into it eventually. And another thing, little fun facts, I guess, he's called the Master of Sound, and he can make sound constructs of anyone or anything. He was in Secret Wars. He joined Doctor Doom team, and he doesn't need to eat, he doesn't need to sleep. He can lift up to 5 tons when he's fully energized. He can reach volumes up to 170 decibels and create concussive force up to 3,000 blasts of TNT. And ironically, he's weak against vibranium when he's made of sound. Ain't that crazy? Because vibranium can vibrate, and that weakens him, I guess. So, based off that, let's try to find something that makes sense. So we have to find the middle ground between having it make sense in universe and making it sense for his comic book character. So when he becomes made of sound, right there, when he's got all the lines all over his head, we got to come up with a reason for him to be having that, because we got to make him look like his comic book version as much as possible without making it unreasonable. Even though we can make it as unreasonable as we want, as we want. Anyways, I'll stop talking about it. Oh yes, that's right. Next we will have our moment of silence for a misused opportunity for him to appear in Doomsday. Secret Wars, I mean. Sorry. And that concludes our moment of silence. Alright, so I made a couple versions of his costume. I needed it before he becomes the Master of Sound and after he becomes the Master of Sound, which I assume is his version where he is made of sound and energy and whatnot. So, in the comic before, in the retcon version, he wore this like long red coat, And his colors, when he becomes who he is red and purple. And he has all these lines, which make me, which when I see that, it makes me think that he's wearing like some sort of jumpsuit. But in the original version, he's literally just wearing like normal clothing, and he has a sound gun. And when he walks into the sound converter, boom, he has this version of himself, which makes me think that he is creating a construct for himself. But then he always looks like that. He never looks any different. And I went through a lot of different versions, but I settled with this one because in the movie I noticed that he's very flashy. Like he comes in, he's very loud. He's not afraid to like be himself, right? Like he wears all these like chains on him, I think, and he's got like this fancy clothes. His bodyguards walk right through the metal detector, and they just do not care what's going on. He walks in like he owns the place. He parks sideways, and I figure if he's being that flashy, you could have him appear wearing this like jacket that I made him that kind of represents his transformation later in the movie. So he could be wearing that in the very few beginning, And that's all I just kind of made it so he had like a belt there, maybe for the first version of his gun. He's not used to it, right? So he has all these high tech. I had lots of other versions that are very different, but I kind of settled with this based on the movie version while trying to reference the comic book version, and that is what they basically should have made. Because he's the type of character where, one, he doesn't care, right? He's like making all these like rap songs in the movie, like they don't show you, but it's like Ross is like, are you coming out with a new album? And he pulls out like he's gonna pull out like an album, and so he's like doing all this fun shit. He doesn't care, and I figured that's not too flashy without being outside of his personality. Like I could see that character wearing that, the character from the movie. And then, anyways, the reason I went for the second one is because you remember in the movie before, in Age of Ultron, the reason he got his arm cut off in the movie was because Ultron cut his arm off. And it's fine. You can have different versions, different universes where his arm gets cut off differently. But I was like, so in that universe, he would have to have something to reference Ultron, right? Because technically Ultron is a part of his evolution. So I figure that instead of doing before when he's human and then immediately after turned into sound, I did 3 steps, 3 versions where he's before, where he's in the middle, where he's processing into sound, and then boom, where he's after in sound. So I made 3 different scenes. And so I figured that in this would make sense in universe is that the thing that's the biggest missed opportunity is that he just gets shot in the head, and that's really fucking hard to come back from. If they just decided to do that in the movie and they just had no plan, like they just kind of like I guess they don't show you, but it's implied that he shoots him in the head. So I had an idea that maybe later in the film it could be another twist revealed that he wanted Killmonger to do that so he could get inside Wakanda, and I thought it'd be interesting if he had like a little chip, like an inhibitor chip, like in his neck, like a cybernetic thing, and so when he's like being put in the Wakanda morgue, um, because he would be there, and I think in the morgue, in the lab, all the same things, and when he's like there. He's dead, obviously. Since the plan was Killmonger to take over and become the king, he can walk in and pull the chip out of his dead body and put it in this other thing, like a quick sleight of hand thing, to kind of be like, oh, this was actually Klaw's plan. It's like fine that they want to focus on other characters, but completely missing the opportunity. I know it was like a very good film. It really was. It's but I think it's missing one little taste, and it's like afraid to be a comic book film. And people went into that movie like wearing the culture of everything, which is fine. That's the point of bringing these movies together, right? It's to to bring everybody together and inspire the best in people. But it's like you missed the biggest opportunity. It's like in the comic book world, it's not just, oh, who am I fighting this week? It's my villain is doing, I got a villain over here, I got a foe doing this. They're all crossing, there's all kinds of shit happening. This is a world where people never get a fucking break from this type of shit. This is their world. And so it wouldn't be too confusing if just when he defeated Killmonger for Klaw to appear out of nowhere. Like it's kind of this underlining B story that's so short, it literally would just be 3 scenes. You know, when he comes in, he's wearing the red to reference that he's going to become of Made of Sound later. Also, I want to point out that the Black Panther movie kind of built the movie up to be that. Like they make you, they show you that Wakanda works based off of sound. So literally everything, to summoning your suit on you, to like which they like put a thing on his ear or something. I can't remember, but there's these like boats, and then they like, in order to make the ritual battle thing happen, they like hit the ground, and then the water comes down, and then it creates that little ritualistic thing for who decides to be king, you know. And then the ships, they said the ships were based off of sound woofers from like a speaker, you know. It's like everything in the movie was building up to be, there was this villain made of sound who's gonna like alter that stuff, you know. But it just like never happens. His Claw dies at the end. Oh great, that was easy. You know, they made it way too fucking easy. And do not be afraid to be a comic book world, right? A comic book world isn't like, oh, we have one villain, right? If you've ever read any comics, it's like you're constantly fighting everybody. There's characters you wouldn't even expect, right? People trying to sneak into your place. Plans where people make you think that they're dead, type shit, Mysterio type shit. And I figure we can have Claw do that. So when he gets shot, they bring him in. There's a scene where Killmonger's coming in. He's looking around. He's like being the king or whatever, you know. And they're just like trying to please him. And he just sees sleight of hand where he's taking the chip out of his head, putting it in a machine and walking away. And then I figured Ultron, because when Ultron was defeated, he kind of left his fucking robots everywhere. And I figured there would be robots in every part of the world. That even, you know, he made himself out of vibranium. So if not that version, just like another sentry that he made that was just to be a reference to Ultron, because remember, Ultron is the reason he has no arm in the first place. So in that sense, he would be like the robot sentry would kind of build itself back together, and it would wake up as Claw. And that'd be a crazy moment. Literally, it could be one scene, and this is the only scene that I think is the perfect tie to bring him human form into sound form, because now you have a third form where he was robot for like a little bit, literally like five minutes. You know, he wakes up as the Ultron Sentry. He builds the cannon because he said he built it himself, which is, I'm glad they at least gave him that much fucking credit. And the Ultron Sentry gets up, and I assume somebody would try to stop it, and he would pick it up, choke him, you know, and then he would blast a couple people, and then he would blast that big window that's kind of right next to that machine, that which it moves by sound, and then it has these little things to suppress it, so it like slows down, right? A little train station they had inside that mountain. So that place, he breaks it, you know. And at this time, Shuri and everybody else would be by M'Baku's place, trying to like survive. They would think Black Panther's dead, so I think that would be the perfect moment to add that scene. And then it's tearing apart all these things, and it starts building this thing down there. And in that moment, that would be the end of the scene. It would be him as an Ultron Sentry. Then you probably see him plug his like, take a cord out of his head and plug it into the new machine that he made, and the robot Sentry goes dead. The Ultron Sentry goes dead, and then that would be the end of that scene. And there wouldn't be another scene until they're down there. Killmonger's down there, and they're fighting, and Black Panther's fully focused on Killmonger, and then he notices that things are changing, down there. There's like something going on, and when Killmonger gets to that scene, like I love that scene with him and Killmonger, where they're at the edge, and he's talking about how his ancestors jumped from the ships. It's a great, like, iconic moment. But then when he dies, it could be like, just because I'm dying, don't you think that this is over? And I think it would be great for Klaw to appear as Made of Sound, Master of Sound, finally. And he's huge as he wants to be, and he destroys a couple buildings because that's what you do. You show me all this city and all this amazing stuff. Do not be afraid to destroy shit. When it comes to making your own worlds, don't be afraid to do it. Because, oh yeah, everybody complains, they destroy shit. They're destroying all the stuff, but it makes jobs for the construction workers. I guarantee you, if you're a construction worker in the Marvel Universe, you're like Bezos. You have like millions of fucking dollars because you have to rebuild like the entire city every day. So don't let people get there. But yeah, that was the whole point behind. That was my idea for the design behind this. Was I was having trouble transferring him from human to sound, and I was like, in the movie sense, it's kind of a big jump. Even though in the comics it's just like, oh, he jumps into a machine, turns him into sound. So I kind of thought it'd be great if it was just like underlying story that nobody was paying attention to, a couple scenes here and there. And so this is the scene I was talking about where he's an Ultron sentry, because I was like, Ultron made him who he is. And it's kind of weird. In the movie, Black Panther has a huge hatred for Klaw, because apparently instead of Klaw killing T'Challa, Klaw killed a guy's parents who is friends with T'Challa. But it's fucking more than that. Like in the comics, he hates Klaw more than anyone. And because he killed his father, right? And then it's like in the movie version, Zemo kills T'Chaka, and he doesn't even fight Zemo. He looks at Zemo and he has a normal conversation with him, puts him in prison, nothing else. But when it comes to Klaw, he comes at Klaw as if he's killed his entire family. It doesn't, like, the anger is misplaced, and it doesn't really make sense. Even though he says it's a cool line where he's like, every breath you take is mercy for me. It makes sense when he has that much hatred because, his father was murdered by this man, and who's a foreigner. And it's like Zemo was a foreigner too. I don't understand. They were just like, it doesn't make sense. Whoever kills his father should be the hated character. Black Panther does not hate Zemo at all. He has normal conversations with him. I just don't understand. Like, that's the point where kind of they fucked up, because it doesn't really make sense. Because he hates Klaw just because he's a terrorist. As much as you or anybody would hate a person coming to your country and like being a terrorist, basically. But I mean, like a police level of hatred. Not like you hate him so much that you're like you want to boil his blood and shit. Like, the guy just wanted a fucking shiny rock, and he killed people to do it. Who fucking hasn't done that? Right? I'm sure the American government themselves were trying to steal vibranium. Because, it's very valuable. And, it's just, it's misplaced. And I think there's a lot of missed opportunities for Klaw to reappear. Because, once again, they keep killing him in every single movie. The villains keep dying. They keep getting killed, and which is that could happen. But in this sense, when he defeats Klaw, when he's made of sound, he can just disperse and appear in another movie like nothing. And I don't remember the post-credit scene for Black Panther, but you could have a scene maybe at the very end where he reforms or something as a different version. And so for this one that I made, when he becomes made of sound, I kind of chose like like an electro-ish treatment, like he's like made of energy, and then the lines on him that become purple, kind of are like you get the idea from the lines on his jacket that he really loved that jacket, you know. And that was gonna be my thing, where he comes in, he's got the red and purple jacket that people are like, oh, you wearing that thing? And he's like, what, this jacket? I love this jacket. Just like a little joke that later becomes like, because the characters wear what they wear because it's part of their personality. And by just changing that, they're not characters. It's like Klaw basically was never in this movie. Instead of Ulysses Klaw, we kind of got Andy Klaw, which is great. I loved his performance. But you don't hire a guy like Andy Serkis for him to just fucking die halfway through the film. It's a missed opportunity. It really is, because Secret Wars is coming up, and Claw's not going to be there with Doctor Doom, and that could be a huge thing. Shuri now being a Black Panther could have a hatred because T'Challa's gone, and Claw's still around, which would be very bittersweet. For them to meet each other again, it'd be like and that was basically my idea behind this design. Kind of like electro-ish vibe. And I had these other drawings too. When he's like got the jacket, he could have like a helmet. Maybe he's coming in on a bike or something. And I had a helmet that was like had the lines on it on the head where his forehead is, kind of like being why he loves that outfit so much that when he's made a sound, he just makes it his face. Was kind of my reasoning behind that. And this scene in the movie was one of my favorite ones because I love Killmonger's monologue at the very end. But I feel like, it's like it just kind of ends right there, and the movie kind of just straight up ends. It's just like, yeah, so Claw's done. I mean, Killmonger's dead. And these are all the scenes that I made, just the versions. And, yeah, that's basically what I came up with. Yes, that's not too bad. But here's a couple of other designs I came up with before I came up with that very last design. I had a couple of them here. I tried a lot of different versions, like more technology, less technology, tactical, helmets, masks. But in the end, for the movie at least, it made more sense to apply what I did in the very end.